Welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. Boys and girls, you know we're always fired up, man. We are always especially fired up. Today, we got an absolute legend in the house, a legend. This man is just the absolute GOAT of poker content. This is a man that's a three-time global poker award winner, a man that makes poker, life, and everyone around him simply better all the time. He's an investor, an advisor, a crusher at poker, and responsible for the entire poker community saying, allegedly, the great game of Pot Limit Omaha and GTO is a way of life. This is a man that's had interviews with the greatest poker minds in the world. A man that recently convinced my dad to start looking at crypto and NFTs. I didn't even think that was possible.
No financial advice. No, I did not. No.
And a man that my kids call Uncle Joey. As you can see with some pictures up here, we're going to add, man, this is one of my best friends, one of my brothers for life. I love this man, near and dear to my heart. Welcome to the pod. And thanks so much for coming on, brother Joey. How you doing today, man?
What's up, Big Poppy? I mean, I know you told me that you got your podcast intro inspiration from my podcast introductions, because I'm debatably one of the top introductions of people on a podcast of all time. That was a great introduction. Thank you very much, my young friend. Great to be joining you on the podcast. I haven't done many podcasts in the past a couple year and a half or so I'm happy to come on here. You've been starting your show and it's been going well. You've had a lot of great guests on. You're grinding, you're working hard, you're in that year one phase of YouTube, but not of Twitter necessarily. So I'm excited to chat, and this would be a good place for me to come on and share some stuff with you I wouldn't normally share on my poker stuff.
Man, I appreciate that, brother. And yeah, you talk about the high energy intro. I think, I credit most of my social media success to you, man. I remember we had a first lift together when I first moved to Vegas, man. And I was telling you, man, I think I'm going to start sharing a little on Twitter. And you're like, I know, man, I know. Like, here's 5 or 6 takeaways I got for you. I remember during that lift, I went home, I took a bunch of notes right after. Like,
I know,
yeah. Still apply a lot of that stuff, man.
Yeah, I remember you had you took pages and notes about what I was saying. Yeah, I mean, I basically love Twitter. I love social media. I love content. I used to really love the game of it all, and getting people hyped up, creating a lot of engagement, getting people talking. It's something I've been really good at for a long time in the poker world. So all this stuff's really like a game. It just depends on how much you want to play it, how deep you want to go with it. So once you sort of look at it like that, it's pretty easy to teach. And then I think for you had a really great strategy, and you're good at really just executing something consistently for a long period of time. You used to be one of the top poker players. So to be able to be one of the top poker players, you know what I mean? Like, you got to be just thinking about things differently, really trying to grow, really trying to improve, really trying to come up with a system that you can just consistently implement with success as it builds over time. So I feel like not surprised to see you have success with Twitter. And then when you get more into YouTube, I mean, the same thing's going to happen, right? Like, only inevitable, a matter of time. If you stick with anything for an extended period of time and you try to get better, you're going to get better. So I feel like with you, that's one of your big strengths.
Yeah, consistency is the cheat code, man. That's for sure. Well, dude, let's get into you, man, because you're just literally on top.
Like, I turned that around, right? Fast.
Well, I know you're used to doing these interviews, man, and a lot of times when we talk, we do this back and forth thing, man. A lot of times we'll go. Me and Joey will just walk the strip for 5 or 6 hours some night. At the end of it, we'll be like, we just should have had somebody following us, man. Just filming that. That would make great
walks
content.
are like the cheat code for unlocking these thoughts and ideas in your mind. So when you're walking and talking, to me, I take a lot of my meetings walking whenever I do calls or talk with friends and stuff like that. So yeah, the Vegas Strip is a great place to walk. It's, it's fun people watching, and then also fun conversing too.
Yeah, very much, man. Well, dude, I'm going to tell one story before we get started, because this is maybe my allegedly favorite Joey story of all time. It's
okay, what happened?
You remember my Aunt Bossy and Uncle Mike came into town. They're like in their mid 70s.
I do, yeah.
We're taking them on the strip, and Joey just meets us down there. We got all the kids. Joey straps my son to him. We walk around. He's the tour guide showing all my, my aunt and uncle in their 70s. We hear him back there. He's talking, hey, if you guys want edibles, you can go this spot. You can go this spot. They're like, what's an edible, man? Like, you just gave them the best time. We got back to the house. They didn't even know me and you were buddies, and they thanked me. They thought I hired a professional tour guide to show us all around the strip. And it was just you just being yourself, man, like just showing these great people a good time.
So I wanted to start a tour guide service on the Vegas Strip, because I feel like I'm one of the best Las Vegas Strip adventurers, just because I basically walk it every single day. So I just am very familiar with everything, know where the fun parts are at, know where to meet people, to get food, drink, the prices. I know way too much history of all the casinos. So that was one of the only times I actually gave a little bit of my tour guide because they seemed to really enjoy it. So shout out to your great aunt, your great uncle. They were very fun people.
Yeah, man, they loved you, dude. They still talk about you. That was a year ago, and they still talk about that really nice young man that gave him the tour.
So funny.
So I appreciate it, man. Well, yeah, let's, kind of getting back into your story, man. A year or two ago, you're on the content grind, right? You're like, you've kind of hit the highest marks you can in poker, right? You've interviewed Phil Ivey, Tom Dwan, Phil Galfond, Daniel Negreanu, you and Doug Polker collaborating. You're just millions of views. When you and I walked the strip when I first lived here, dude, we couldn't go 20 feet in a poker room without somebody wanting pictures, wanting all these things, right? And then kind of got to a certain point where maybe you decided, hey, I'm a little burned out. Can you kind of talk through that? What went into that decision? Kind of your mindset around that? What led you to kind of take 9-10 months off, and then now you're kind of back a little bit too?
Yeah, I think what led me to take 10 months off, I took a long break because I basically did content. I was locked in the poker metaverse since 2008. I was basically playing poker, consumed with poker, watching poker, started making content more officially in 2014, even though I started in 2008. So I've been doing content grind pretty consistently since 2014 with, maybe a limited amount of breaks. But so I was like, I was sitting there in Mexico last year and I was just like, man, I just kind of really feel like doing other things, because anytime you do a lot of content, it's a lot of public figure stuff. It's a lot of energy exchange. It's a lot of you putting yourself out there and having to deal with the opinions of anyone and everyone, and you never know what these people are going to say. So obviously, that's good and bad, right? 'Cause you get a lot of positivity, you get some comments that are more negative, you get comments that you can learn from. And I think after a while, it's really easy to get over that or burnt out on that. And the way that my life was set up is, with poker and with content, I was like, man, I just got to figure out something else I could potentially do here. And I really wanted to learn more about, I basically took like a week or two off. I started learning about Bitcoin and decentralized finance and how the finance industry works and how the banking industry works. And I just went down this deep ass rabbit hole. And I said, you know what, like, maybe this is just maybe I'm done making content, right? Like, I'm going to explore something else. If this works out, cool. If not, then I can always go back to doing that. And I could do it part-time. I could do it full-time. I could do it casually. But I just want to really give myself more options and just kind of take some time off and see where the world took me. So that was really the inspiration for why I took 10 months off. I was just like mentally kind of, I don't know, man. I just feel like I really need to reprogram my mind and get a different vision, get some goals in my life, and have a purpose for why I'm doing what I'm doing every day.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. And I will say this too, man, Joey, and I'm going to thank you a lot of times during this podcast, but you've helped me even avoid a lot of that burnout. Like when you were talking to me, up and leading up to that and saying, hey man, you can't just go 100 miles an hour every day on Twitter and content. Like, so I programmed in because of you telling me that. I have 2 afternoons every week now where I just have a couple pre-written tweets and I'm off of it. I completely disconnect, whether I feel like it or not. And that kind of keeps me going, but I think you have a lot of wisdom in that, man. And what some other thing you said there that I would allude to is you're never stuck, right? You can go chase these other things and you could always go back. And I think that's a good takeaway for other people too, where, I necessarily didn't want to leave the bank when I did, because I thought, well, man, like, what if it doesn't work out? What if I go into coaching or poker or these other things, it doesn't work out? Well, I could always go back and manage a bank, man. So it's good to have that kind of that deep self-belief that I think you have in yourself. I think that comes from putting in the reps and the consistency that, like, anywhere you choose to go, man. I always say this, if you just decided tomorrow, I'm going to become the world's greatest #1 ice fisherman in Alaska, like, I guarantee in a year, you would be that guy. You would study, you would learn, you would,
I don't know about that, Bobby. But I see what you're saying. And that's sort of what I was thinking about in Mexico. I was like, you know what? I never really chose poker when I was 21. I sort of fell into it and I started making some money from it. And I was like, oh, this is pretty great. I watched on TV. I was like, I want to be a well-known poker player and, that sort of thing. And now I was like, well, I pretty much, like, the world's a lot different in 2022 than it is in 2007. So the ability now to do things on the internet, now there's a million different ways you can potentially make some money on the internet. First, before, you really couldn't make money on the internet in a bunch of different ways unless there really wasn't like e-commerce back then. There was to some extent, like we did eBay back when we were like 15 years old. So eBay business, you go to garage sales, you go to foreclosures, you go find things that fucking around different places wherever you can find things, and then you sell it on eBay. So, that was kind of like the first e-commerce I mean, I think that was one of the first e-commerce kind of stores you could do. So, I was like, okay, well, like what exactly, like what is money, right? Start studying money and energy and time and value to just try to figure out like what exactly is this banking system that we're in? What is the fiat system? What exactly is Bitcoin? Where do these interest rates come from when you deposit capital and you expect to get some kind of return on your capital? Just how do these things sort of work, and what's their relationship with the government, and what's their relationship with the military, and what's the relationship with the Federal Reserve? And once I started learning more about that, I just realized like no matter what I do here for this next year in my life, like if I can learn this, I'm essentially growth hacking 150 years. Because if I stick with the level of understanding I have right now, then I don't think I'm going to be able to get where I'm trying to get to, because I just can't, I don't understand this world well enough to be able to understand like how the corporations work, and how could I really make a difference in the poker world at the highest level when I don't really understand how that world operates. So that was been a mission of mine these past few years, is just to really study that every single day. And I feel like once I started learning about how the financial industry works, that really unlocked everything in my brain, because none of this shit is what it seems like from the outside when you grow up, when you're in school, when you're learning. And then once you get inside and learn it from this perspective, you're sort of like blown away, because it all makes sense, the things I've wondered about for so long. So now I'm very much into this world.
Yeah, man, you're one of the most curious guys I've ever met. I think that's what made you really, really good at poker, really good at content, really good at interviewing. You're great at asking the right questions at the right time. And I think, when I was meeting you a lot of these times, like about once a month, man, I love being a dad and a husband, whatnot. But I always tell my wife, man, I need to get out of the house and just go hang, and then me and you will grab a dinner or a walk, or, play some poker, whatever that might be. And during that time where you kind of weren't public, right, for that 9 or 10 months, you would just tell me some things that would blow my mind, like during those walks, the things you were studying and learning. And then it really helped me to start to unlearn a lot of these little things that were taught growing up that, well, this is just normal. This is just the way things are. Well, you've kind of done a deep dive into why things are the way they are. And it's pretty fascinating, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can kind of study back a lot of the history of America, and the history of Federal Reserve, and the history of the medical system, and history of the education system, and you can basically retrace a lot of these things and start to realize they were made up by a person or a group of entities for some type of corporate agenda or some type of social control agenda. So some people look at that like, oh, it's a negative thing. Like, oh my God, these people like steered us this direction. They're so fucking evil. I don't necessarily see it that way, because at some point, like some people got to step up and they got to put something together. And then once they put something together, they have their system in place. They try to implement it. Of course, people are not going to be happy with the system. Well, it really isn't their system. So they're participating in someone else's creation of a system. So once you start to maybe think about it like that, you can start to identify the common cliche programmings that we have that are put into our mind that we didn't put into our mind. And we limit our beliefs, and we keep ourselves inside a box based off the concept of symbols and language and words and spells, that we can't see past that. And we just consistently wake up each day and tell ourselves the same story every day. And our life ends up being the same, not realizing that if we shift the words that we say and the stories that we say, then we can take our life any direction. So that is one thing that I really focus on. And when the things when we talked about, that's because I wasn't studying poker. Like poker, if you don't know much about poker, we could talk about poker. I could probably blow people's minds on some things, but like the things I'm studying about like life in general are commonalities every single person has. So those were things I really wanted to learn more about for the future of my content, because I'm in poker right now, but I'm basically going to do a shift into more the world. So I don't exactly know what the hell this is even going to look like, but all I know is that the interest in what's happening in the world is starting to really pick up. And there's so many interesting stories that are happening that impact our life on a daily basis. And the people that talk about it, they sound fucking nuts, because they come from the conspiracy theory angle, right? And obviously conspiracy theory is a created term to put people inside a box and basically attack another side, a person who has a different theory about what might be considered the official mainstream narrative. So I just feel like that there's these two sides and they sort of like go at each other, but no one just sort of is like, yeah, I mean, here's just what happened. Here's both sides of the argument. You sort of make your decision. So I've always felt like that's what I do well for poker. And I think I could do well with any topic. Bill Gates, the World Economic Forum, all these very controversial topics in worlds that but I think people just approach them from an extreme one side versus like trying to find the good or bad in both sides, which it's a different way to think about it.
Yeah, and you've definitely opened my mind to that, man. And that's a good topic to expand on, when a lot of people are always coming in trying to prove their point, right? And I think that's why I hate politics so much, is because the goal for most people on politics is to prove that their side is right. Like, I don't really have a side, man. I just kind of want the best life for everybody, right? And you've always done that so well at poker, where, you know, like I love Doug Polk. I'm just a fan, man. And you guys do a great job collaborating a lot, things like that. But you guys definitely took a different strategy into the poker content game, where you just collaborate with everyone, right? Like even guys that are maybe controversial, you're still like, man, what can we learn from him? What can we, you know, whereas Doug kind of goes after people and kind of goes at that one side, and it's hilarious, to be honest. But you've always kind of more brought people together and just presented information, not so much even cared, you know, you're one of those like anomalies where you don't really care about the likes. You don't really care about the audience. You don't really care, not about the audience, but about how big it goes or things. That you just kind of make the content you love, and it brings people together. I think that's why you have such a loyal following of, you know, even you can take 10 months off and you've still got people that are engaged with you for 15 years that are waiting to see what you do next, you know.
Crazy,
it's a pretty big thing.
I mean, a few things there, right? So you mentioned Doug Polk, and obviously I got lucky to be able to work with someone like Doug Polk for so long. I've known him for such a long time, and he's always been a great collaborator of mine, great to work with, easy to work with. You know, really, we got like a special bond on camera. I don't know, man. We both fire off, right? He got his own style. I got my style. As you said, he uses a very political based strategy where he is very attacks the enemies and attacks that. Whereas my philosophy in making content when I first started was, well, if I work together with everybody, then we're all gonna excel from that. We're all gonna see value from that. Like, if I can help, it's like poker world's a small world, man. This isn't many fucking people that are inside the poker world. So if I'm gonna know you for 25 years or 35 years or 45 years, let's just work together. Like, let's figure out something we can do together. Let's figure out some ways that we can collaborate together. And that's really been the basis of my strategy in playing poker and in making content for 15 years now. And right, I mean, it's a strategy that works for me. And I think it's a strategy that worked for a lot of people, but a lot of people don't see it that way. They feel very competitive. They feel very jealous about things. They feel like, you know what I mean? They don't, I've just never seen it that way. I've always said, you know, like, I don't care anybody's doing well, right? Like, into point two, I've never necessarily cared about the view. I think views are so easy to get. Engagement is so easy to get. Like, if you really want to build a strategy around engagement, it's so fucking easy to do that. You just talk about different things. So it's really easy. What do people want to talk about? What's going to get them fired up? I mean, it's pretty easy to understand what gets people fired up in poker. We can go look at my most popular videos. We can go look at the most popular videos. We can go look at what people are talking about, and we talk about that. You know, the formula isn't really a rocket science strategy, and then you can build as a aggressive marketing campaign around those ideas, right? And like, that's when you get into like the deeper levels of how this stuff really can start to work out, which obviously we talk about a lot too. So yeah, I just think for me, yeah, I just like people. I don't know. I like a lot of the guys in poker, even though they're all crazy, they're all out of line. But you know, that is what it is. I mean, I don't know. That's what I learned about the world, is that a lot of things happening out there.
Everybody's playing their own game, right? And it doesn't necessarily make people bad people to think that, you know, maybe they just see things a different way than you. But I think it's really cool how you've had like a Phil Nagy, right, on your podcast, who's accused of cheating and all these things. And can I ask you, like, I never have really, was that a direct thing? Like, when you have a guy like that on, are you doing that with the intent of trying to make the poker world better when you have a guy like that on? Because it's been like an effect of like, for a while there, your main mission, people call you Batman, right? Like, hey, we need to alert Batman Poppy to come like save the day on, like, you know.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't agree with that assessment. And the thing is like, when you really look at it, like, I mean, no one really spoke out about these things. And this was always one of my big issues coming up in poker, was that, you know, I feel like people sort of use the poker community to further, you know, they use people to get sponsored, make money, and then they say, fuck those people when they're not you know, when they don't want to do it anymore, they're not more useful or whatever. And I always really disliked that. You know, that was always my big issue I had with Dan Negreanu, was I felt like he was the voice of the players. And then one day he was, you know, the company got sold. He's advocating for stealing millions of dollars from the professionals, you know? So I was just like, man, like, more rake is better, right? All this kind of stuff, basically shilling for the corporation. That's when I realized he's a shill for the corporation, right? Which is great. A lot of people are shills for the corporation. Not even saying that, right? Maybe it's in line with how they really view things, but that's how other people play their own game, as you said, not necessarily the game I've thought about playing or kind of played like that. So I think with someone like Phil Nagy, who was the CEO of, he had to give some backstory for this stuff, right? He is a CEO of a poker site called America's Card Room. And basically I played a lot on there. We were friendly with each other. I played a lot of cash game poker on there. The games were infested with bots. The games were infested with, in my opinion, people working together. And there was just some overall really shady shit on there from other accounts. So I made a bunch of videos on that. I found I found data on all the bots. There's a ton of bots on the site. 3 guys in one game playing with me. This ain't hard to fucking detect. If you give me access to every piece of data on the back end poker site, oh, look at that. They all play the same stats. They're all winning money. They're all play at the same time. I wonder, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? So this guy is facilitating this activity happening. I'm playing these games. And at the time I was a little crazy, bro. I might took a little emotional. I got fired up a bit. I started making these videos and my goal was like, hey, don't fucking play on this site because you ain't winning on this site. And you're not going to win. If I ever endorse the site to you, I don't endorse it anymore. I don't want you to go there. Because you're probably not going to win. Look what's going on this site. They're fucking letting this happen. If they can't handle stopping this very basic level exploit in terms of how I manipulate the games, then like I don't have faith in them to ever catch anything. I don't trust. That's just a site I don't trust. It's just incompetent to be able to not pick up on this. Now what I've learned is poker operators work together with the bots. So they'll work out deals or purchase the accounts that will play as the bot to keep games going, to keep liquidity moving around. And then what they do is they can structure a deal where it might be the bot might get 10%. You know what I mean? There's either a rake share, it could be some sort of money they win at the table, but there's a bunch of different ways they can do it. And you can program the bot potentially depending on skill level where maybe if they're winning too much, you could dial it down a little bit in certain ways as well too. So there's a lot of different offerings that companies will have in this department. And I found like maybe this is actually standard. So
when you're finding this stuff out, man, is that what maybe led to a little bit of the burnout in poker too? Where
for sure. It's just like it's all a big foog, man, right? Like this game ain't what it seems like. The poker game isn't what it seems like. So what I just realized is a giant fugazi. So if I want to have a difference in the world at large, at scale, with what I'm seeing with media and what I'm seeing with everything that's been happening the past couple of years, if I want to get involved in that world, which is what I'm getting involved with now, then, you kind of got to leave poker behind in some ways. Like you can still care about it, care about the people and try to help people out and give back to the community. But in terms of like being so fucking obsessed with all this shit, maybe it's unnecessary to do that because there's other things to worry about in the world that are probably just going to be more impactful and probably healthier to think about in general.
That kind of breaks my heart. I've been playing poker for 19 years now, man. And I love the game so much, but I think the thing I love the most about it is, to me, it's like one of the only fair things, right? Like I've talked to you a little bit about this. Like I worked in a corporation and, even if I worked 100 times harder than another guy, maybe I got a 1.5% raise and he got a 0.5% raise, but poker to me seemed like we're all just putting our money up. Whoever's, the most disciplined, the hardest working, can keep their emotions in check, all these different things, most strategic thinking, they're going to win the money, right? And there's something so pure about that to me, man. It's like capitalism at its finest, but kind of hearing you talk, it seems like that maybe it used to be like that, or is that, do you think that's new change?
I mean, it still is like that for some people. Here's what I learned is that there's a bunch of tiers of people who are making money at poker. Some are doing it that way. Some are doing it many other ways, whether they're operating the game, they're staking people in the game, they're putting the game on, they're playing in the game, they're whatever strategy they're using in the game. Because there's so many different pockets of the poker world where there's the live public casinos, cash game, there's the private games that are in people's houses or in people's casinos, there's the private games that exist on the application-based poker sites, there's the public sites there's the regulated, more known sites, and there's the unregulated known sites. So then there's illegal sites. So there's so many different pockets of the world where the best players in those hierarchy, even if it's one home game, can potentially make a big amount of money if that's a higher enough stake. So what you're describing definitely still exists, where there's an ecosystem you could go to, you could do all those things you said, and you're probably going to have a lot of success. And in fact, I think now it's way easier to win at poker just because there's so many places to play. Once you understand what it means to be a winning poker player, then you need to get better at understanding how to navigate the different storefronts out there to be able to work the deal with the owner, be able to get in the game, make sure you're not getting cheated, right? There's a lot of things you really got to learn now that most people are like, oh, I don't want to learn that. Well, then you're not going to fucking win. So, if you don't want to learn that, it's great too. Then you're going to wonder why I'm not winning money at poker or whatever. And, maybe some people don't care about that. I don't know. I've met all kinds of people from coaching and working with people. So I would say that the poker world perception is just like, there are those serious players, but there are also a bunch of other people, tournaments and cash games, who are doing their own thing and who are making a side hustle, or they're making a full-time living from it.
Yeah. What do you think is the current state of poker then? If we're talking live, if we're talking online, do you think it's just flooded with cheating?
So great. So much potential, really. I mean, poker is so under everything, under marketed, right? There really isn't a big media site. There really aren't poker players who the poker players who are well known in poker now basically did it all themselves. They really haven't worked, got a bunch of money, investment behind it. They haven't worked with a major operator. No one's really helped these fucking people out. No one really helped me out build up my channel except people I work with consistently. There was no big operator or company who came in and said, hey, let's put resources behind this. And then even if you do something like that, you really most of these companies know what the fuck they're doing. So they might say, I'll give you a big contract deal. And say Lex Feldhaus, for example, the biggest poker Twitch streamer, his contract with his poker star is going to be a pretty big contract because he's able to consistently generate the type of audience on Twitch that he's able to do. So to them, seems like a valuable thing. They've been paying him. He's obviously stuck around. He likes putting the time. So it seems pretty valuable to those guys. So it's kind of figuring out now, what to do with that. And then how can the poker site provide more resources than just the capital investment to be able to take that brand that they're working with and take them to a whole nother level. And that is something that the companies before, Full Tilt Poker, and I think PokerStars did a better job at, because they just had more money to spend and they had more places to dispatch these people. But it just seems like now, they're not really doing anything like that. So
there's a lot of trying going on in poker content. I mean, you got Poker Go putting up some hands.
No, there's a lot of trying. There's a lot of trying. It's just, it's pretty challenging to be able to figure these games out, because putting the content together is one thing, and then marketing it's another thing, programming is another thing, doing it on all the platforms is another thing. So a lot of people are just 6 years behind. So, I've been studying this for 8 years. Most people, I don't know, they probably got into it a few years ago. So, and now there's going to be more competition, more people making poker content, more operators trying to get in the mix, bigger company. This is basically what I'm saying is there's a big explosion going to happen because you got more companies spending money. What happens when you spend money? Other people are able to grow off that money. Everyone's growing together. More money starting to come in, yada, 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 goes up. You got the people putting on the games, who are putting on the live stream games. You got the people putting on the events. The events are going to start all growing and growing. We're already seeing record turnouts there. You have the vloggers really starting to bubble up, young guys, older guys, mix in between. So you got different platforms up there that are helping to provide massive exposure to the game itself. You have some famous content creators outside of poker getting more involved in poker. So everything right now, legality's shaping around, more bigger operators are coming into the space. So it's about to really take some leaps in some ways. It's just a matter of what is going to be the catalyst for that.
I like to hear you say that, man. That's when I lived in Illinois back for a few years before we moved to Vegas, and closest casino was 4.5 hours, and I could play on Global Poker, a couple little sites, but I couldn't really stay involved in the game. I mean, I loved watching Brad Owen, Andrew Nemi, you and Doug Polk, guys like that's what made me feel like still a part of poker and a part of the community. And I think the bigger those guys get and the more people that they attract to come in and do that, the bigger poker can get. Because it's, I'll be honest, man, I really think I was promoted in the corporate world a couple times because I was a professional poker player for 10 years and people thought that was cool. It was unique. It was different. Everybody likes poker. It's you can't really go into too many conversations without people very interested in it or that they want to learn more about it. So it does seem like there's a massive opportunity. I mean, since Black Friday, everything kind of came crashing down after that. But it does seem like there's this massive opportunity for new people to come in and kind of, like you said, make the game a whole lot bigger, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's more opportunity because before all you could work with was ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS Sports, NBC Sports. Now you can go work with a guy in his bedroom in Kansas, and he might have more impact for your brand than that would have. You know, CBS Sports, Poker Go put WSOP on CBS Sports. I mean, better than nothing, right? But who the fuck is going to watch CBS Sports? Maybe I got to check the numbers, you know. It's playing in bars. Like, are people even watching TVs at bars anymore? They're on their fucking phone a lot. You know, I don't know, right? Putting out 10 episodes of the World Series of Poker after it happens. I don't think anything like that. That's not moving the needle in 2022, right? Maybe 2007, that might have been something that was going to work out well. But 2022, you're lost in the shuffle in that. And you might be getting some exposure. And it's probably, you know, not a bad deal overall. But in terms of what is possible in poker, it's severely... I don't know. I mean, listen, I don't want to be too critical, right? Because I studied all industries, so I see a lot of best practices in other places, and you come to poker and, you know, it's just all discombobulated and just a bunch of fucking Fugazi people. But, you know, it is what it is, right? You sort of deal with your situation, I guess, right? What are you gonna do? Complain about it, deal with it, try to make it better, try to make an improvement, organize stuff yourself, do something else. So for me, I don't know. I'm in that stage right now where I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people are interested to see where you go next, man, and to see if you'll have a little piece of poker. I mean, I remember when you put out that MMA video, the Conor McGregor, you know, fight, and it got like what 30 million views,
24 million views.
Yeah, something insane. And everybody made those memes like Joe Ingram walking away from poker, you know, and I mean, maybe you can have a bigger impact outside the world. I think you're a special guy, Joey. And I think, you know, when you alluded to earlier, I just always like to bring people together and I want to work together. Has that always been your mindset, or is that something you kind of intentionally thought about as you started creating content and playing poker? Because it's not the norm, right? Like everybody in poker especially thinks it's like eat or be eaten. And I kind of feel like you're the one guy who came kind of early on and said, no, like I can work with everybody. We can just build a bigger table essentially, you know? Was that an intentional choice, or is that just kind of your personality, your nature? You want to see everybody win?
It's a good question. I wouldn't say winning is all subjective. So, you know, everyone live their life, right? Do whatever they want to do. People seem to really care about everybody else does. But I think for me, I've always been, I don't know. It's a good question, right? Because I've always been competitive. I love playing sports. I played team sports when I was 4 to like 18 years old and even beyond that. So I always just like working together with other people. I always had a lot of friends. I was always organizing sporting stuff and gaming stuff and basketball and baseball and football kind of activities with all my friends or people in the fucking neighborhood, people I didn't even know, people I didn't like, whatever, you know, come out, play. We're going to play football today, you know, tackle, you know, don't break your arm, you know, that kind of thing. We did that for a long time growing up. So, and then when I started working out at the gym, I was basically the same way. I was like the mayor of the gym, knew everybody, you know, slapping fucking hands. What up? You know what I mean? Like, I was like, you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. So, and then once I got into poker, I just started posting the forum community. And I don't know, it was never like a conscious effort to, you know, I want to see everybody win, or even like, that's a big thing they do in some entrepreneurs, some CEOs, when they're trying to pitch their deal with you. You know, they talk about win-win, right? I want to set some up, win for you, win for me. We both get value. I don't want anyone to get a bigger, whatever, right? So I'd say like, I don't think about it like that. I just try to, I don't know, try to make people look good, or try to set them up to succeed, or try to empower people versus being the other way, which is pretty easy to do also.
Yeah, I think like, you know, something that highlights that, I remember like the heads up challenges, you know, like if I'm honest, man, watching, and I told you this a couple of times, like watching like Doug Polk and Dan Negreanu play heads up is so boring. Like it's literally, I mean, it's just like a raise, c-bet, fold. But like when you came in and started putting jumping gorillas on the side and flamethrowers and rocket ships and like, does he have king 9? I don't know, man. He could have king 9. He's all in. I don't know. Like I started watching that, man. And I got hooked, man. And I'm not even a guy who watches a ton of content, but like I couldn't put it down, you know? And I think that's your gift. And I think that's why, dude, people like you fire me up. Like I've never left a conversation with you, Joey, or like a time where we've met where I've felt worse than before. I always feel better. I always feel empowered. I always feel like this guy put this belief into me that I can go do these things. I just feel like you have a knack for that and a gift for that, man.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that. It's a good, interesting thing that you said. Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I was just always like irrational about all this stuff, irrational self-confidence or ignorant self-confidence, where I just believed that whatever I put my mind to, I could do. And then I think anybody could do that theoretically, right? So if you don't think you can do it, then you're probably not going to be able to do it. And I feel like most people I interact with regularly, like yourself, you're always very getting after it. You're always very ambitious. You always have a clear vision in your head. So, sometimes it's easy to kind of get lost in the weeds in terms of you didn't take a break, or, you let something affect you, your performance at your work. Everyone needs advisors. Everyone needs people that are in their friends or inner circle that can help realign them when it's just a natural thing throughout the day. And I feel like certain people really understand that and they get that, and other people aren't necessarily aware of that. But the sharper people, like good poker players, they get all this stuff, right? Like if you're in poker for 10 years, this. You don't last in poker for 10 fucking years without being able to understand that you got to get yourself out of a mindset sometimes. And sometimes you're not aware that you're in it until someone else that you respect tells you, hey, I'm seeing it like this. And you're like, oh shit, good point. Boom, I'm out of that. So I feel like that's when we talk, we always get along like that really well on that sort of level, because we both sort of understand that, just because things are bad today doesn't mean they got to be bad now. You get in the present, you can reframe anything theoretically, and you can sort of build up these consciousness defense systems in your mind, these reframe exercises that constantly visualize the process of you reframing out of some of these thoughts that you have. And that's more about meditation and being in control of your own thoughts and control of your own mind, and then repetition on, like, I built like a mindfulness gym. So there's exercises I do with my mind that reframe me out of certain kind of thoughts and ideas that can align me with the belief that I have in terms of knowing what I want to do or where I want to go with things. And then I think I'm good at, I've always been good at empowering other people to believe in themselves as well. And that's why, I don't know, I noticed that when I was younger. So I just kind of do that naturally.
Yeah, man. I know we talked a little bit about before the GTO club, when you had that, and you had, 10, was it 10 or 12 guys in your group?
Between 10 and 20, it varied. We did it for 1 year. GTO club, like a mastermind group. Greatest idea I ever had. It was awesome. So much fun. Yeah.
Yeah. You would see some of those guys' lives literally changing just from kind of an energy transfer that you could put into them, and that deep self-belief that you could give them. And, it's there's so much power behind that.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say I was able to, I think it was the combination of being around other people, other men who were succeeding in their own, whether it was in poker, whether it was in the corporate world, whether it's running their own business. So young guys, older guys, new guys, German people, fucking UK, Malta, a bunch of Americans, Colombia, all these people around the world, getting them people together and seeing their processes and seeing what their goals are, and then seeing them be able to achieve those goals can help you unlock your vision. That's why with like vision, like you're impacted by your surroundings because that's what you see. So those things that you take in are programmed into you, and those sort of become your belief system. So it's sometimes hard to break free of the box that our mind's in when we just do the same thing every single day or around the same people every single day. Now, if you're around people who are getting the fuck after it every day and they're like, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, and you're having calls a bunch of times, well, to some guys, that's like a life-changing thing because they've never been able to be around that. So certain guys, when they got in the group, they're like, oh, I'm mean. Like, I see it this way. Like, no, why don't I just think that I can win at poker? And why don't I think I can have a good day? And why don't I think I can make a positive impact on people like these people make on me? So that was a big thing with certain people that I saw, was that they really just didn't believe in themselves. They didn't know how to think that they could succeed at playing poker, or succeed in their fucking relationship, or succeed at looking at their job in a more positive light, to love it or like it or enjoy it, versus trying to dislike it when they go there. So that was certainly one thing I noticed. And yeah, it was a great idea, man. It really was. I didn't really know what the fuck I was doing. So, but it worked out well. We retained, I think, 10 of the OG members the entire year. And I'm pretty sure that is really, really good for a subscription-based membership-based site and idea. So yeah, I would be open to doing something like that in the future, but it's a lot of energy, a lot of time, and a lot of, you have to dedicate a lot of yourself to that idea. It's a full-time thing. If you want to make sure people succeed, you get really invested in their success or their journey. When they don't succeed, you take it personal. So
Yeah, I definitely know the highs and lows of that, man. And I think the big point there is it's huge, and you allude to that. I kind of light bulbs are going off again when you say that, is like our environment, and our environment specifically who we choose to interact with every day is so important, man. And I've got a cheat code in my wife, Annie. She's PhD, like just so encouraging, so like supportive, so like always giving me life. You know what I mean? And I try and do the same to her. So that's my number one kind of person I interact with every day. Then I got, you, who I talk to a lot, my best buddy in poker, Johnster, Steven Jones, back in the day. I mean, dude, I would have never been successful at poker without him. Like, him and I were best buddies for a really long time, and just sharing ideas, sharing, hey man, Ty, this isn't working because of this. We brainstorm and powwow. And I think as a dad now of young kids, man, I tell my daughter who's 7, if you hang around 10 people someday that are going to be doing these negative things, maybe they're doing drugs or doing this or that, you're going to be the 11th, 100%, but if you hang around 10 people that go to the gym, that work on mindfulness, that meditate, that pray, that do all these right things, you're naturally just going to fall in line and be the 11th. And I think adults probably don't think about that as much, right? Like a lot of people just go to these maybe toxic work environments that they don't love. They hear people complaining, that's really negative. And they go home, it's the news is on, that's negative. And all these inputs are just constantly negative, and then that produces a fruit that's kind of a negative mindset, negative life. So people really need to be mindful of that and who they associate with. Seek out these mentors, seek out these positive people that can kind of give them energy in life too, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to get better, I mean, most people don't give a fuck about this stuff. So, I'm not like pushing on. I don't go out there and be like, everybody's got to fucking meditate. Everyone's got to be mindful. Everyone has to do what I am doing or other people are doing, because most people don't want to do that, and they don't want me to be telling them that they should be doing that. So for me, it's not as much of my message anymore in terms of that. I would say it's more of, something good to know. So if you are looking to change your environment, it's a kind of an easy framework to start with and say, well, if I want to get into the political world, then I can't be interacting with live poker players anymore who aren't in the political world. So if you want to get better at something, then theoretically you might want to surround yourself with people who are interested in talking about that topic or getting better at that. So that would be the framework that I think about that with. And then you could sort of reevaluate your process. Okay, who's the girl I'm with? Who are my friends? Who am I around? What's the content I'm doing? But when you got a 9 to 5 in an office, I mean, it's pretty hard to find the time to do this. Like a lot of times your work has you in a mind virus. So you don't really have much time to think about anything else outside of the work for a lot of people if they're not good at managing their time. So, for me, I've been doing this for a long time. So I've had a lot of time to work at it and think about it. But my life isn't the same as other people's life is. So in terms of them being able to execute on setting something themselves up and finding these people to be around all the time, that's what's good about group chats on Telegram or WhatsApp, is that I'm in a bunch of crypto stuff and a bunch of investing stuff, a bunch of yield farming stuff, poker stuff. So for me, I just read through that, and that's like my network of people, and Twitter's like that and TikTok's like that for me. So I don't really have a lot of people physically around me that I interact with, but all my interaction takes place digitally now as a way to solve for the problem of where do I find those people in my real life.
That's probably, you mentioned that a lot of people just don't give a crap, right? Like they're kind of content and set. Don't
for whatever reason, they might not know, right? Like they might not have thought about this before, and they thought about it and they didn't care at the time. So it's not like one's better or worse. I think a lot of people look at it like negative or positive or better or worse, successful, unsuccessful. So for me, I mean, everyone do what they're going to do, and everybody different. So I don't look at one as like, you got to do this or you got to do that. I'm not selling a fucking course here. So I don't need to.
You're never selling anything, man. That's like your MO.
Downside is that you
never sold anything.
A lot of money.
You built up an audience of hundreds of thousands of people, and the guy won't sell anything ever, man.
Well, these companies are coming. They're all pitching hard right now. The offers are going up now, it looks like. So I got to make a decision. If I sell my soul to more corporations, because technically we sell our soul to YouTube and Twitter and Instagram in some ways. So, but also at that you also do that, and then in return you get other opportunity and other possibilities and other interactions and other opportunity to, whether it's for people to meet or work or go or learn or whatever. So pros and cons to everything.
Yeah, that's right, man. Nothing's all good or all bad usually, right? And I kind of view like YouTube, Twitter, all these things that Yeah, like I don't love like supporting some of the platform. They they censor some of these things that I don't agree with or whatnot. But I do feel like blessed to live in a time where I can put out some good habits, healthy, positive messages, and I can have people every single day of the year now fire in my DM, say, man, that made an impact on me. Thank you for that or that. So to me, I feel grateful to be able to get to share and that other people can do that. But that's kind of my overall vision and mission for my life, right? And everybody's got to figure that out for them. Like you alluded to, some people are they're cool to just go work their 9 to 5, kind of come home, do the family. And that's awesome, man. There shouldn't be any hate around that, right? Everybody's free to make the choices they want.
I mean, I don't know, whatever. People love hating, they hate on everything. So people love to hate literally on everything. So whether there should or shouldn't be hate is another topic altogether. Yeah, I just don't really think about it much because I'm not really arguing in anything like that. I mean, it's always good to have some opinions on this for more like all content perspective, right? To have strong opinions and tell people how they should be and how they could act. And, we could have this sort of opinion on a theoretical inline spiritual life with some out of line activities and taking care of your mind, taking care of your body, taking care of your soul, drinking water, eating good food, having positive conversations, taking in love, doing something meaningful you like in life, getting balance and going outside in nature. We could obviously shill and advocate for that kind of lifestyle. It sounds great, but I'm certainly out of line sometimes and I don't always do that. So, I can't say that you should do it all the time. You could sometimes maybe you go out, black out too. And that's for everybody, right? Like everybody do what they want to do. So
this is going to be the headline of the YouTube video. Joey says sometimes you just got to go out and black out and get out of line.
I mean, fuck it, dude. I don't know. I live in Vegas, right? So my skew of the world's way different. So I feel like to live in Vegas, you got to be blacked out most of the time.
Well, you're interesting, man, because you go in cycles, and I've seen this because I've been in Vegas now 31 months, right? And so you will go through these very you're very during that 10 months off, you were super meditating every day, walking every day, eating only organic food. You were just so in line. And then the World Series hit. And it's I'll get a text from you. It's 7 a.m. And I'm like, oh, bro, you want to meet me at the gym? I'm headed there. And you're like, no, man, I'm out drinking. I'm leaving the club. So yeah, you go through different phases and seasons, but you're also given a lot of, I would say, different unique temptations as opposed to
I think your basic point, we get into this. I think your basic point is that, living in Vegas, living by the strip, living on strip, living in action, there's always someone new in town that I want to hang out with, that I have a great time, that I'm some tier of relationship with them because I know hundreds of people that are all around the world from doing my podcast and just being in the community for so long. And I love talking to people. So being able to manage that and also do your work is the challenge, because sometimes you go out late, you might drink, you might be hungover, you can't wake up early the next day, and then you're not sleeping well, you're not eating well, your habits get out of line, mental health gets out of line, and that cycle, you can get stuck in that for a long time living here. So being able to be on top of that and manage opportunity and manage your body, your mind and soul is very, very important for longevity in terms of being able to succeed with your health and your wealth or your wisdom or your relationships, your family. So I feel like you have to get better at that over time. Otherwise, you're basically not going to be able to live here anymore because your life is going to be ruined to some degree. So I think, that's what I've gotten a little better at managing that. And for me, during the World Series, as you said, I went out a lot, and that was a part of the World Series poker experience for me because people are in town for a limited period of time. So I feel like that is a part of the World Series to me, is having those experiences with those people.
Yeah, there's some things that are way more important than, you never get that back, right? You can always go back to the lab and grind and go back but if people are in town for a week that you might not see for another year, you know what? Sometimes you got to go be out of line.
I mean, I would say this all stuff's good for business too. Going to the clubs, I'm going to have my own nightclub one day. I'm going to be doing my own events. It's going to be music. It'll be poker. So the more time I can spend in the best nightclubs in the world and these great events, and figure out what I like, figure out what I don't like, meet people that I can hire who are going to be working to help build these events as promoters, as cocktail girls, as performers, as executive or operations roles. So I'm trying to meet a lot of different people that are not only in Vegas, but also in the nightlife world or event space. So that way, when I start to build out, working on more Vegas partnerships, or when I'm starting to build out more nightclub partnerships, or I'm starting to work with more people who are executives for entertainment, then I'll have these relationships where I've already met these people, find people that I like, find people that I want to work together with, not only on the Vegas side, but also on the poker side. And to me, you can really find out a lot about a person when you go to the nightclub with them. So I use that as a way to develop my life and to meet people that I want to work with, have a good time. It's basically a lot of fun. So that's what's going to make me good at running my own nightclub, or being an investor in the nightclub, or having some sort of position, you know what I mean? Like being involvement, probably as an investor. I don't know if I'm necessarily run the operations right, but I'll be there, a vital role in building out the vision for that event.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely see that in your future. I don't know, somewhere, but like, do you remember when we went to Cynthia Thurlow? She's a good buddy. She was having this big health expo here in Vegas, and I invited you, and we went down. And after, dude, 1 hour in this place, so they'll just kind of build it out. There's this big health expo. It's like keto. It's like all these different health people. Well, me and Joey go to it. Within an hour, Joey has the operator's number, the person running the event, all the people in the booth. He's literally just chatted up everyone in there. He's giving them some advice on how to improve the event, on how to, like, I remember leaving there just thinking, you have a real calling to throw events and bring people together and do this, man. So you see that as a big part of your future, probably?
Well, I would say I don't have a calling. I did 600 podcasts. I mean, when you make YouTube for 8 years, you're creating an event. So I'm good at creating digital events. I don't see why I wouldn't be good at creating a physical event. It can't be that hard. So, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there literally people have done events for hundreds of years. This can't be hard to throw an event. My mom she throws events. She always used to throw events. And so I asked her for a lot of advice because she's a professional. And I mean, yeah, when you walk into a conference like that, right, you sort of look at the production, you look at the brands that are there, you look at the speakers that are there, you look at the decor, you look at the marketing materials, you look at the way you got in, content being made there. All those things can be improved a lot of times at these events. So I just see those things naturally right away because I've been building out these events in my mind for the past couple of years. And then obviously you want to walk around, you want to meet the vendors, you want to see, you know, what products they have, like what's here that's good, you know, what's the quality, where are they going to be, what are these people doing? One of the guys I met, he had a spiritual pen. What was it? It was like a light therapy, because basically they say that certain frequencies of light can have certain impacts on your body, on your cells, and your frequency. They create certain patterns in your body, allegedly, is what the people believe. And then it can heal parts of your body. So I was studying a lot about that. And this guy had products about that. I was like, dude, no way. This guy's like 75. He's locked in. He's doing hikes in the fucking mountains. So I was like, oh my God, these people are great here. So I had so much fun at that event. Thanks for bringing me. It was a lot.
Bro, you were like, you talked about earlier, you were like the mayor of the gym when you went. And I remember when you got really hooked into basketball, you were like, by the way, I can't beat you at basketball. I remember I was on your podcast like 6 years ago, and I challenged you to basketball, and now we've shot hoops together and played, and there's no chance I could beat you. I'll admit that. But you know, you just
yeah, endurance. If I'm not endurance, then you got better endurance than me. So
maybe I can take you at tennis, not basketball though. I'll say that.
Tennis, yeah, you did pretty well. You were killing me on tennis. Yeah. I was like still learning, and then you were like, bam, bam. I was like,
I've been playing tennis for a while, but you have been kind of, like when you said that kind of hit pretty hard. You've been running these digital events, and even a podcast is an event, right? And you're really good at, you know, you said this, I was taking a walk the other day and you mentioned it to me, how hard it is to keep an audience engaged for over a decade. And like, you've been able to do that for, I mean, dude, we're talking 2007, 2008, really? 2010 is probably when you started like really we're talking over a decade, right? And people still, I can't go down and play a 2-5 game on the strip without somebody mentioning you're brought up in poker games, that, or something that you've said on a podcast or something, right? And so
crazy, bro. I don't know. It doesn't even make sense to me, because I just never thought about like that. You know, I was just always kind of locked in the metaverse, sharing my life, sharing my story, doing these challenges and making content about certain things that got people excited or hyped up. And I just never really thought about it, that what did that mean? Like, what is that? What are you doing to do that? So it was just sort of a thing I just intuitively did. And when you look at it like that, it is really hard to be able to do content for 10 years and keep people around and even keep growing, really, because a lot of my audience is still growing on all my platforms. Like, I've never really even tried to get followers. You know, these guys use a certain strategy on YouTube. Like, listen, guys, it ain't fucking rocket science, right? You go to the casino, you show poker hands, you do that for fucking 4 years. It's not like you got to really do anything, you know, move up stakes, keep working at your game, keep crushing. That's the formula for success on poker content for most players, right? So I went a different strategy where I did long form only, and then made a lot of my own videos, made a bunch of different topics, tried a bunch of formats I just felt like doing at the time. So I think that is also a little more challenging to do because especially now there's like a lot of, you know, long form competition. At the time when I started, you know, I don't know, I just was like, I think I'm going to be great at this. And I just kept doing that. I didn't think about anything else. I just kept going out there and never really put a lot of like deep strategy into it. Just always had a vision for what I thought my life could be or poker world could be or whatever. So
when you like started the podcast, did you imagine you'd be like interviewing, you know, Fedor Holtz for 5 hours in the Bahamas?
Well, I would say like, I mean, Fedor Holtz at the time, no one even knew what Fedor Holtz was, right? Because the first time he got known on my stream because I had him on during one of his final tables. So it was like, you know, he was one of the first guys that was like a fan of the stream, and he came on, and then we did a ton of content together. You know, I was always great at finding the early talent. I'm really good at finding early talent and even talent in general. Like that's why when I find, like, I think you're one of the best talents that you could find for, because you have a desire to get better and you have a vision in terms of like where you want to grow your brand, and you're willing to try different things that you might not be comfortable with, which is basically a recipe for a fucking success, really, in terms of growing an audience, in terms of like making money, or in terms of having a certain impact, not necessarily, but at least having the talent and the ability and the desire to take it the uncomfortable direction. I think that's something that you're great at. So for me, that's something I've always thought about doing, is where do I find the talented people that are next gen to work with, that needs exposure, that could use some help or use some resources. So that's been a big part of how I thought about things for a long time. And then it's great is that when you work with people, then eventually they get better and better and better. Like all my guys are all getting real good now at everything they're doing. All these guys have been helping out for like 10 fucking years. You know, Doug started out, we would help each other out a lot with content, with YouTube, and other people start out with poker. I've been working with some of my poker guys for over 10 years and strategy and ideas and stuff like that. And now some of the podcast guests, I've been having these guys on for 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, you know? So what I learned is like, you really can't hack time in this situation, because a lot of all the success in this is just the time. Is that if you're around for 10 years, like clearly you're just doing something right, whatever you're doing for 10 years, if you're making it for 10 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of to deduce the takeaways from that, and then how do you move forward for the next 30 and succeed. Sort of what I'm trying to do right now is, okay, well, I built this out for 15 years in my head. And my vision when I started the podcast was I would be exactly right here, where I was one of the top media people. I was one the, you know, theoretically, right, I used to feel like I was more considered for being a great poker player, one of the better poker players. You got to show yourself playing poker. I've only mainly been playing in private, so, and I haven't talked much about poker in the past year, so it's easy to maybe people forget that. So now I'm coming back out. I'm gonna start playing more. I'm gonna let people know, like, hey, you know, like I can dominate poker as well too. I did this for a long time, and I'm ready to get in the mix. So I've been kind of repositioning myself potentially for that. And it's really just deciding now, right? Because once you have that success, then what do you do with it? Because your vision got you here. Well, then where your vision succeeds, where do you take your vision from there? Is it more poker? Is it more life? Is it more family? Is it more experiences? Is it more investing? Is it more politics? Is it more banking? Is it more intelligence? So that's kind of where I'm deciding now. And I have the vision for where I want to go next.
Nice, man. I think everybody's excited to see where you're going to go, man. And I think it's probably a healthy mix, you know, you don't have to be, or do you? Maybe that's just a good question to ask. Do you feel like, because I wouldn't describe you as an all or nothing guy. I mean, you're pretty like lasered in focused when you start studying a certain topic, but I feel like you can go work out and have a good time, and then go to the club and have a great time, get up the next day and go for a walk and have a good time. And, you know, or do you see it as, if I'm going to attack this one thing, I'm going to be laser focused on that and build that out?
I think a different way I've been thinking about it, because that used to be the idea, is like you only focus on one thing, put your all into one thing, and then it's just going to keep crushing where your energy goes, your attention goes, your focus goes, your results go. And if you have a vision built out to succeed at something, then you're most likely going to succeed at that. So what I try to do is reframe that out and say, well, if I have an intention or a vision for my life in 10 years, 15 years, in terms of what that life would look like, how healthy would I be, how wealthy would I be, what kind of intelligence level would I have, how would my relationships be like with my friends, with my family, with my community, whether that's online or whether that's locally. So in general, it is very similar to what it is now. So it's easy to align with that energy and say, okay, well, if I keep following my intuition and I keep on this path, then it's only going to take me to where I see my life in the future and I'm going to succeed, which kind of gets out of the way of being wrapped up in the decisions that you make. And sometimes, because you can have regret, you can have FOMO, you can, I should have done this, I should have done that, I shouldn't have done this, I should have done that. And instead of really stressing about it or, getting really, I guess, right, it just overconsumes you and you can't function anymore. It just takes people out a lot. They just can't think anymore. So for me, I feel like, I'm willing to go into an uncomfortable place and I'm willing to go down a road that I'm not sure exactly where it's going to take me, but I know where it'll lead me to. So a lot of my study talks about that is that you sort of have to let go and you have to say, okay, well, there is no resistance to this. This is what's going to happen. I don't know what surprises in life are going to be thrown at me, but I'm willing to take on some surprises that I know are going to get me to where I want to go.
That's powerful, man. That's really powerful if you kind of see that vision. And I like how you said everything's kind of led you up to this point in your life. I mean, I look back at I watched the video from when you set the world record. How many hands did you play in 24 hours?
50,000 US hands in one day. Yeah.
Just so wild, man. And was that kind of your first kind of what got you started in content? Or
my first thing I did a big bet. I did 600,000 hands in a month. That was the most hands everyone ever played in a month. And then the next year I did 50,000 hands in a day. And that was the first YouTube. I did a skit where I was like, what's up guys? Joining your 1AK Chicago Joey. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to set the world record, 50,000 hands plus, right? I was in San Diego, 23 years old, fired up, had a massage girl there. She gave me the great massage, lazy boy recliner. And I was like, yeah, I'm the best grinder in the world. Fuck you guys. Cause that's what I thought. I was like, I'll out grind anybody on the planet. Give me the bots, give me anyone, fucking Asian people, give me the Brazilian people, give me the Euros, give me the Russians. I'll take any. I had an open challenge to anybody for most hands at Cash Game. I challenge everybody in the world.
What was harder, the 600,000 in a month or 50K in a day?
60,000 600K. I had to play 16 hours of poker every day
for 30 straight days.
The entire month.
Bro, that is did you ever think about quitting or was there just not an option?
No, bro. The only plan was to play the hands. There was no quitting.
Were you profitable at that month?
Yeah, I crushed. I did pretty well.
Man, what did you earn in rake back from that?
I don't know. My bankroll went from 5K or whatever, maybe less, to 30K.
That is insane. I get 16 hours a day, 30 days in a row.
Yeah.
That's the kind of insane work ethic that I feel like if you can apply that to anything you do in life, you'll be successful. And I kind of think that's why poker is kind of a microcosm of life. The guys that have been around for 10 plus years, they have that kind of sick, I don't know, man. I don't know how to quite put it into words, but
you need the desire. And it's just not easy as an American to stick around in poker because it's just not what it used to be. So if you were used to playing on Full Tilt or Poker Stars, now you have to trust a shady operator, you have to trust a shady host of a game. So when you look at your life and say, well, do I want to try to make a living doing that, or do I just want to do something else? I think for most people, it makes a lot of sense to do other things and then to play poker as a side hustle. So that's the problem, is that there really just isn't enough safe places for a lot of people who are willing to take the risk now and play in the clubs and stuff like that. To me, that's kind of a new generation where we do have some holdovers who are still from back in the day, but most people if Poker Stars are still around, I'm sure a lot of people will still be playing. Yeah. So I would say it's more a function of that, just that, if you're only playing live tournaments, you really got to get lucky. You got to find a good deal or you're going to go broke. So I think that's what's going to happen to a lot of people, is that if all they want to play is 10Ks and 5Ks or whatever, then, it's not just about, you need to be good at your deal and your backers and staking and understanding that stuff. Most people don't know how to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into it than just being good at poker, right?
Exactly. There's a lot more goes into it. Can you understand what the Like that's why I always tell people there's the theory of how to play a hand, and then there's the theory of how to be a winning poker player for an extended period of time. You know, can you play a hand well? Sure. Can you win a tournament? Yes. Can you play for 6 months? Maybe. Can you play for 5 years? Probably not. Can you do it for 10 years? Probably not. It's a different kind of mindset, mentality. So, you know what I mean? Most people, that's why when you read someone talk about a hand, they might know what they're talking about. Like, I don't give a fuck if you know what you're talking about. Like, let me see you do it. Yeah. You know, go play a session. Like,
show me the receipts. That's a big
receipts, right? That's what I
on Twitter all the time.
Like, great. You tell me you can do it. Let me fucking see you can do it, right? Like, okay, do it again. You know what I mean? Like, to me, longevity is so that really tells a lot to me.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. I think that's why, like, you know, if you equate it to like a sports guy, I'm just a huge Brady fan because this guy's still doing it 20 years later. You know, that amount of discipline it takes, what you're putting into your body, what you're, you know, all the recovery, all these things. And I mean, I've been winning at poker now for 19 years, man. And I've had one losing month in those 19 years of playing poker. And dude, you know, I play very small stakes at this point in my life, play on WSOP every month, and I'll go down and play some 2-5 every now and then. I'm usually going to be one of the best players in the game just from, you know, the 20 million hands I've played over my life. But I do feel like I take a lot of pride in that. The consistency of
20 million. What?
What'd you say?
Like 20 million. How many hands do you think you played?
Bro, I think it's close to 20 million if I had to guess.
No fucking way. Like,
well, dude, Supernova Elite one year, that's like 3.5 million, right?
Is it? I don't think so. I did PLO. I think it was like over $1 million for me. But maybe for you, if you did it at...
Dude, I was playing full ring. Remember? I was playing 24 games at a time, full ring. Yeah, I was like a 16 VPIP or something. So I
played like 6 million hands, so I don't think you could have played 20 million.
You don't think so? I'll have to think about that some more.
Think about it some more. I'm sure it's a lot though, but I don't think it's that many.
I thought to get Supernova Elite at the stakes, like at 200 NL back then, you had to play about 3 million hands in a year.
No, I think it was a little less than that.
Lower? Okay.
That would be what, like, I mean, maybe. I think it was a little lower. I just don't remember I think if it's just like 1 VPP per hand, right? It's one.
I thought it was like 0.4 per hand, man. It's not
if it's 0.4, you got to play 2 million, right? You got to play 2.2 or something like that.
Okay. Well, regardless, a lot of hands. We'll put it that way. Maybe it's 6 million, you know, but still.
I'm passionate about this topic. So I'm passionate. Actually, if it's 20 million, I mean, you can be capping 20 million, right? Showing the fucking receipt, 20 million hands, right? So.
I don't think you probably can.
I'm sure it's a lot though. Obviously, you've been playing so long. I only had one losing month. That's crazy, bro. I mean, yeah, you were definitely a god, like the 1-2, right? You're like the toughest 1-2 guy. You're one of the guys that play me. And I was like, damn, this guy, you don't fucking lose. So, you know.
I probably should have, like, in hindsight, it was probably very foolish. I should have just moved up a lot more, right? And like tried to get better and move up stakes, and you can make a lot more that way. But
I don't know. Listen, it turned out well for you. I don't think so. I think you did a great job, man.
That's the thing.
I think you got a great approach, great strategy. I always call it the Tyrompers strategy. Stick with what you know and just keep crushing it.
Yeah, it makes you want to play more when you I still to this day on WSOP, dude, I win 8.5 out of 10 sessions, 8 over a 31 month span. Now I chart it, and it's like it makes you want to play more just because you're constantly winning, you know.
Damn, that's awesome. Yeah,
it's cool. Kind of nice, man. What's the most thing, like what's the number one thing you probably take the most pride in? If you look back, if I were to say, hey Joey, last like 12 13 years in your poker career, what's the biggest thing you would take like the most pride in?
Take the most pride in? Yeah, I mean, take the most pride in. It's a great question. I don't take pride in any of it, really. I guess. I mean, I'm happy I've done some of it, and I could say I'm proud of certain actions or certain things, or helping out certain people, or helping people to get a once in a lifetime experience. You know, I help people get in the main event. I help people achieve their dream, play the main event. I help people get in $25,000 tournaments in the Bahamas with their family. Yeah. So, you know, it's really hard to know in terms of what you take pride with, right? It could be from content. It could be from a podcast. It could be from a poker moment. It could be from something with your family, or something with your little brother, or something like that, or with your friends. So I think I'm just pretty happy about it all, I guess, in some ways. And I wouldn't say prideful about any of it like that.
All right. I got you, man. That's a fair answer. Switzerland type answer. I respect it. Yeah, it's a Switzerland answer, man.
I don't even know what this pride word means. I can't.
Just like you're proud of, like if you're looking back, like I would be the most proud of the consistency of my poker career, right? That I have only lost 1 month in 19 years. I take a lot of pride in that, right?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, are you really proud of like setting a poker result. I mean, I guess I'm proud of myself that I could achieve it. I'm proud of myself that I could give myself challenges that I could figure out.
Yeah.
But, along the way, obviously you sometimes get out of line, sacrifice something. So not proud of all those things, right? Or proud of neglecting family or neglecting situations. So I'm proud of the moment, but not necessarily proud of all the actions that it took to be able to achieve that.
That's a good point, man. I think oftentimes people will look at like a Tiger Woods and say, I'd like to be like that. But then you have to look at the whole picture, right? And say, with that comes addiction, becomes relationships are bad, and so yeah, when I look back at my early poker career, I was obsessed. For the first 2 or 3 years, I was a terrible human being, right? Like relationships were awful. I thought you were shuffling chips, man.
I'm not shuffling chips. No.
Did you play a session last night?
Yep.
How'd we do, man?
Lost.
Oh man. Was it PLO though?
Omaha, the great game, yes, sir.
Why is a card room in Vegas not approached you with a deal to have a Joey's home game? Or is it something
a bunch of people have. Do you really want to partner with a casino? I'm just like, people are gonna go there and lose their money. So I don't know. Most casino, they want to work with me, or most operators want to work with me. So it's just a matter of finding the right partnership, the right deal, and deciding if that's what I want to do.
See, I don't even like pot limit Omaha. Sorry, man. It's just that, I like no limit hold'em, but I like the 2-card PLO, as you would say. But I would go to an event like that. If you were running a small stakes, like get together, meetup game, Joey's playing at all the tables, similar to what like Brad Owen, Andrew Nemi, these guys do. I think that would be fun, man. You're just kind of like an ambassador. Then you're throwing the event, kind of how you talk about it. It would bring a lot more people in, a lot more people to have fun. We could do like
you're saying.
Every half hour, the whole table takes a cheers and a drink together, man. We do a bomb pot. Like, we could make it fun, make it like a fun event,
That does sound pretty fun, yeah.
So if any poker operators here in town watching this,
I'm in.
Reach out to Joey, man.
If you want me to organize it, I'm in. Because they're making offers right now, so
yeah. You've got a lot of different directions you can go, man. I know that.
Yeah, I really want to do, like, I want to play more games, but I also really want to start doing some other stuff. So like, I kind of want to just get poker out of my brain.
Yeah, I understand.
You know what I mean? So the more ideas I build in poker's direction, then the more committed I get. So, I'm not to say that I don't think that's would be a good life, but there's just other desires I have right now. Plus, we don't know what's going to happen with the world, right? We don't know what's going to happen with the banking system. We don't know what's going to happen with the credit system. We don't know what's going to happen with any sort of, the way that the world is going to be operating here in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years. So to me, I'd like to be positioned to get more involved in that world if the opportunity presents itself. And maybe I think poker is a great vehicle to do that. So that's sort of where I feel like my path's going to take me.
That's awesome, man. Well, I know there's probably, several 100,000 people out there that are excited to see where you go and enjoy all the content you put out.
Are they? I don't know, bro. I mean, are they, like, for real? There's so many people like out there now.
I don't know, man. I mentioned that, when I'm playing a 2-5 game, your name always gets brought up. I've coached 2 or 3 really small stakes poker guys. And like, the month into coaching, I remember with one of them, it came up that, oh yeah, after this, I'm going to hang with my buddy, Joey. And they're like, Joey Ingram? And it was like, oh, dude. And the guy just went on this like 10-minute tangent about how he felt like he knew you already. He could, man, he's watched every podcast. What people didn't really realize about your content back then too, dude, it was a cheat code to be so good at poker. And I feel like that was so underutilized. Like literally Phil Galfond, you're asking him these questions, the most genius. This guy has the biggest brain of anybody I think I've ever heard talk. And we're getting insights into his mind, the way I remember taking notes on a lot of these podcasts, man, and just being like, I need to apply these same principles, not only to poker, but to life to be successful. And I feel like, man, if I had those takeaways, then certainly other people did. And so I feel like you made a very big impact on a lot of people, man, and still do.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the show, was to talk about, like I said, the mindset of being a winning player, and versus the maybe theory about one hand, but how to consistently execute on your strategy and your theory over an extended period of time and make your number go up in terms of your bankroll. And then the ways that you can handle your mind, body, and soul at poker and at life. That was a lot of the core themes and ideas behind my podcast. So it's a bit different than other people focused on in their podcast. So a lot of people end up taking notes and taking ideas down, and they rewatch some of these things 10 times. And a lot of people I've met went on to become great professionals coming up from my content, which is insane to think about, but that's so cool. And it always makes me happy to know that right, because that's what it was. You basically got to hear from someone who dedicated every day of their life, me, to rising up the poker stakes and getting to high stakes, talk with other people who did exactly the same thing. And I was just asking them banger questions all the time, or at least trying to, because that's what I was curious about. Like, hey, like, how do you think I stayed good for so long? How do you think I still stuck around poker for so long? It's because I was having hundreds of conversations with the greatest poker players in the world and the greatest minds in the world. So I got to chop it up with them, and we all got to build out our ideas in the community together. So it was like a perfect idea.
Yeah, it really was, man. It was pretty awesome. Well, dude, can I ask you one other question as a dad and somebody who likes being that? Do you ever see that in your future, man? What's
absolutely, yeah. I mean,
what's the poppy love life look like, man?
With the right lady, shout out to my lady with the right lady. Shout out to my girl right now. I could definitely see that. And obviously, most women are very passionate about having children, and I think that'd be great. Little papito running around. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I love what you put out there in your message for people, family, taking care of your kids, taking care of your mind, your body, your soul, dating your wife, healthy relationship at home, crushing it with the business and investments. So I feel like you're laying out a great blueprint for a lot of people like myself and other men out there to follow. So keep up the good work on that front, Poppy.
I literally can't wait till you have little kids, man. Like, it's so fun when they get a little older too. Like, my daughter just turned 7.
Imagine,
dude, you get to like just pour into them in a way, and then you see the little habits that you do that they start to do too. Your kid will just love learning and studying. He'll be like, just little poppies running around, man. I can't not smile when I think about that, man.
Yeah, I could see that. That'd be fun. Take them to the park, play some poker.
Yeah,
maybe shoot. I don't know. You put them in your content. I probably wouldn't put my kids in my content, but
yeah, I feel like I like sharing, man. I just kind of like being.
I don't know. I'm sure I would or wouldn't. Who knows, right? Maybe if I had a great kid, why not? Why would I not?
It's 99% positive, I would say.
Yeah.
Sharing. And you get that. Like, when you put yourself out there, 99% of it's positive. You sometimes remember that 1%, unfortunately. But
yeah, I don't remember anything anymore. I don't know. Like, that's one thing. That's the cheat code to content creation. Is like, eventually you just gotta stop giving a fuck about anything, what they're saying. Like, good, bad, not too high, not too low. They put you down. They say you're stupid. They say you're bad. And they say you shut up, that ugly. They say you did great. They say you're a great guy, a legend, this or that. You can't get too impacted by any of it. And so for me, once you get back more on YouTube, and once you reach outside of your core, that's when you can open yourself up for a lot of abuse. And you can just stay away from those places, or you can sort of just take it and battle, or you can take it and say whatever, so there's a lot of different ways to deal with it. But
yeah, I've seen some of it from Twitter, man. I've been in the midst of a few attacks on Twitter. And I mean, to be honest, man, I kind of feel like anybody who's going to go out of their way to attack somebody else online is kind of a broken human, man. Like, no really like mentally healthy people wake up and find content they don't like and go argue with the content creator. So like, I kind of feel a lot of empathy for people like that, to be honest, man. And I always try and give them like a kind word back or a little encouragement back. And then if it persists, like, I'm just going to block them and keep living a good life. It's kind of the way I view it.
Yeah, bro. I mean, what are we remembering this stuff for? I mean, I don't know, right? Some guy on Twitter, like, I don't know. I used to have this deep, whatever, bro. This guy has said something I said seems really strange. Who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? I don't know. Who gives a fuck?
At the end of the day, right? Doesn't really affect your life. So why care about it that much, man?
Yeah, I don't know, right? I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just don't really take a lot of this stuff very to heart anymore in terms of what people are saying on the internet. And whatever my situation is, I guess it just is. So if I ever do get into those things or start talking about other topics that elicit those reactions, then whatever, like, that sounds fun. Honestly, it kind of sounds fun going the other way. Yeah. Like, I'm very non-confrontational and try to have a good time with it, but I could easily just be a fucking asshole and easily talk a lot of shit, easily go after all these people if I wanted to, but I don't want to. So but sometimes I think about it like, oh, that'd be fun to do. Like Zuby.
You should create a separate YouTube channel just to do that like a few days a year, where you just go after people and just make it kind of fun.
Go after people. It's just like, I could critique things as well if I wanted to, you know what I mean? So I try to be in line with my critiquing now, and it still comes out sometimes, but
Yeah, it's again back what you talked about. It's kind of a build a bigger table, man. If you're going to work with these people for 20 years, why not like them? You know, why not find things you can collaborate on? It just makes more sense from a strategic point too, right?
And I'm not really thinking in like a content mindset right now. You know, I'm just trying to live a peaceful life, spend time with my friends, some time with my family, try to eat healthy food, try to go to the gym, work out, take care of my mind, and just keep doing that. So I'm not really like, you know, how do I do this or do that? You know, I'm not really like thinking much like that at all.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of chilling. I got these channels, so I might as well do some great stuff with it or try to do great stuff with it. So that's how I feel about it right now. And I'll do that until I don't want to do it anymore. And then I'll start doing some other stuff.
I love that, man. Well, it's so good to see you at peace, man. And just like, you know, mentally happy, physically happy, spiritually happy. You seem like just such a great spot, good relationships, good everything, man. I know everybody's going to like seeing you just doing really well. I don't know one person that doesn't just root extremely hard for you, man. You got a lot of love out there. A lot of people love you, Big Papi. I think you've changed the landscape of poker. You've changed a lot. You know, the way people talk. You can't sit at a poker table and not hear allegedly or GTO or 2-card PLO. You know, all these things you kind of branded for you know, for a while. You made a massive impact, man. And I'm excited and just grateful. I get kind of a front row seat to see where you go next, man. And I like all our tennis games hangs.
Yeah, thanks, Poppy. Glad to have you on, or glad you had me on, and I appreciate you you working so hard, doing a great job. I'm excited to see the future of the channel and the content for you, and you'll be in my position before you know it.
I appreciate it, man. Well, dude, I love you to death, man. You're easily you're one of my favorite humans on earth, man. So I appreciate you coming on more than you'll know, man. Any last words for the people?
Nah, no last words. Shout out to everybody if you watch this far. Thanks a lot. Much love. Thank you very much.
All right, my wife's changing clothes in the back. That's why my eyes are going this way.
It's
time for me to hop off too. But
yeah, let's get it.
Thank you guys for tuning in, man. This is Tyrompers No Limit podcast. I think this is episode like 44, 45, 46.
Fuck yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
We got the legend Joey Ingram on here. I appreciate him taking the time out, man. We'll link everything Joey does below. Follow him on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube. This guy literally puts out the most fire content when he gets around to it. And we just love this guy to death, man. I can't wait to see where you go, Joey. And thanks again for hopping on, man.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, you guys go bless up today. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to others. Let's go change the world, baby. Have the greatest day.
Peace.